te otake I roto te atinga ko te Minister no te muni Mark Brown, the Don no tā rawa tuanga tutua tika, I roto I te popungi o. At this time, folks, the Minister of Finance, Mark Brown, and the Don for some straight talking this morning. Kia ora ana, good morning to you, Minister.
Kia ora ana, good morning, William. Good morning to all of our listeners out there. Boy, that was a big downpour in the early hours this morning.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It bucketed down. In fact, I got up early this morning to go for a bit of a drive, have a look around. But it was good to see. There wasn't any flooding. I expected to see some.
Yeah.
But obviously not as much rain as what it sounded like when it came down. But the creeks are definitely running. Takoene stream is running. And a few of the smaller ones, there's a bit of water running through them. But no, a very heavy downpour.
Yeah. Now, there is a lot, but the flooding could still happen. It's not just us too. It's all around the Pacific, New Caledonia, Fiji. Yeah, they're getting dumped on as well.
There's a big weather bomb that's unloading this rain on all these islands.
Well, Minister, have you done all your routines for this morning? You had your coffee and all of that. You ready to be attacked?
Yeah, sure. Bring it on.
Okay, Minister. Firstly, did you go to the Waitangi Day celebrations the other evening?
On Monday?
On Monday, yeah.
Monday evening, yes. I was there at Ngāti Pā to welcome the new High Commissioner, Peter Marshall, and his wife, Pamela, and also to help them celebrate February the 6th, Waitangi Day.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very lovely evening there with a chance for Peter to meet some members of the community, business community, the parliamentarians, also government heads. So it was good. And I think Peter Marshall has been a good choice for the Cook Islands to be the High Commissioner here. I met him just a couple of weeks ago when he first arrived. And, you know, he seems to be a very pragmatic person as a former police commissioner for the New Zealand Police Force.
Yeah.
He's not I guess, a career diplomat. But he's a person that likes to get things done.
Is he another Hone Carter?
No, I don't think we'll get another one of those ever.
Okay. Okay, Minister, you mentioned it was an opportunity for the new High Commissioner to meet people from the community, members of Parliament and government and that. How many people how many of the members of Parliament turned up to the event?
Well, the only ones I counted was myself and member James Beer, the two of us.
Oh, really?
That's from what I could gather that night. That was who was there.
Well, that's terrible. If only two members.
We tried to cover the bases. James did the opposition, and I did the government side.
I mean, that's unbelievable, Minister. Given the amount of support New Zealand gives our government, our country, I mean, all members of Parliament are part of government or have some role to play. Isn't that a bit rude? Oh,
I don't know. They might have had other engagements on that night, why they weren't there. I'm not too sure. But, of course, you know, the majority of our MPs are here on Rarotonga from the opposition side. But, you know, happily James was able to turn up. And I was there for our side, but we had a number of government officials, Homs, that were there, representing the government side of things.
I hear, I heard about some of the things that you said the other evening at the High Commissioner's place. Looks like a bit of a competition between yourself and T. Angelo, like I love myself, walla 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 walla. You know who T. Angelo is?
Well, I don't know what you heard, William, but you weren't there, so I guess you don't know what was said.
Well, I'm only just bringing this to you now.
Well, there was certainly no I love myself.
Well, let me... you were
and
comparing...
there was certainly no singing from me.
Do you know how to sing? Do you know how to sing? I said, do you know how to sing?
Of course, you see me singing in church every Sunday.
A lot of people don't know that. Minister, you were comparing yourself with Prime Minister John English, hoping to get a phone call from, what's his name, Mr. Trump?
Please, William, I think what you're hearing is is just sensational stuff.
Yeah.
What we had was a bit of humour.
Oh, okay.
And the speech welcoming the New Zealand High Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you totally missed the point.
Okay.
Totally missed the point, William. You got to record these things so you know exactly what was said.
All right. Well, I wish I had an invite.
I like having a bit of a joke, and that's what we did.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So there was no self-promotion. There was no T. Angelo, I love myself, I love my body. Nothing like that.
Okay. Don't forget the walla walla walla
I
part.
think that's more your style, William.
No. Do you ever hear me do that?
Yes.
No.
Every morning on radio.
Really?
Carry on.
Okay, Minister. Look, but I think it's a bit of a raw one, don't you think, when members of Parliament don't turn up to functions like this? Especially when the High Commissioner is just fresh on the beach.
Well, knowing Peter Marshall for the brief time that I've met him, the High Commissioner, I don't think he would have been too upset by that at all. I don't think it would have bothered them at all. I know he's been around to visit a number of members of Parliament, including the opposition side and the government side. He's met all the cabinet ministers. And he wouldn't have been too fussed about who turns up to a cocktail party or not, to tell you the truth. I think that's the feeling there. So if you're trying to look at something to create a sensational bit of news that members of Parliament failed to turn up to Waitangi Day celebrations at the New Zealand High Commission, I think you're pulling at straws.
Well, I don't think so, Minister.
Like you say, do you know why they didn't turn up? Did they have other commitments?
No, I'm just asking you, Minister.
I don't know. I don't know, William.
Well, obviously you don't know, but don't you think it's shameful, irrespective of what excuse they may have? I just think it's poor, given the amount of money that New Zealand is going to be pouring into our country over the next few years, something like about 40 million.
Well, that may be what the opposition, feels that they've got to go and maybe grovel show some obedience. But our members of Parliament are busy. Some of them may have had land meetings on. They may have had other meetings on. We don't know why. And to say, it's a disgrace when someone may have had a tumor thing in the family or something like that. We don't know. So why go and speculate on people who weren't there? And why not just celebrate the fact that there were people there to welcome the High Commissioner and to celebrate New Zealand's Waitangi Day?
Well, Minister...
it was a great evening, and the people that turned up certainly had a great time. Yeah.
Well, Minister, last year, towards the end of the year, the Ministry of Culture had one of its final events, which was the Mu'u competition and the launching of the ukulele competition, which would kick in this year. And the former New Zealand High Commissioner was invited to that, and he came.
Yep.
But there was no one from government, not even the head of ministry, for that particular event. So what I'm getting at, Minister, if it's good enough for the High Commissioner or the former High Commissioner to come along to that event, why are you laughing?
I'm laughing at what you're trying to do.
What am I trying to do, Minister?
Well, you're trying to paint people who didn't turn up to this event in a bad light, without even knowing why they didn't turn up.
Well, I don't think whatever the excuse is not good enough.
What about if they're sick?
Well, I mean, that's good enough. Sick is sick, yeah.
So they could have been sick.
Okay, Minister.
Anyway, what's the big deal? We've got better things to do than go on radio and talk about who turned up to a cocktail function and who didn't. Really?
Well, I mean, when a friend invites you to their place for a dinner, I mean, do you not
so
just...
we're going to debate...
I'm just
we're
giving
going to
you...
debate now courtesies of accepting invitations. We've spent 10 minutes talking about this now.
Well, I think it's a bit on the nose.
20 minutes left.
It's a bit on the nose, but let's move on. Did Cabinet meet yesterday?
Yes, we did.
Okay, what were the papers or issues brought to Cabinet yesterday?
We had one key issue that we were discussing yesterday, and that was the top-up to the POBOC for the pharmaceutical purchases by the Ministry of Health. So we did this last year as well. Last year there was the orders for pharmaceuticals exceeded what we had previously. We kept the appropriation this year the same, with the expectation that if a similar demand for pharmaceuticals arose, we would then top up the budget, and that's what we've done. So we've had a look at it, and we're talking, our ministry people are talking to the Ministry of Health. They're in the midst of preparing, well, not preparing, they're in the midst of submitting their business plans for the budget. The budget discussions that'll start to take place from this month, and have a look at a more appropriate amount that we should be putting aside for pharmaceuticals for this coming year, and also moving forward. Mm-hmm. But essentially, we've needed to put in, we've decided to put in an extra $150,000 into the pharmaceuticals POBOC to ensure that the supply of our medications and pharmaceuticals, drugs, medicines is sufficient for this remainder of the financial year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Well, we were having a look at the news release on the air services agreement that's been signed with Singapore.
Is that the reason why the Prime Minister has gone up to Singapore?
Well, that's one of the reasons, was to get that air service agreement signed up. The other reason was to join the other Pacific Island country leaders there at a conference hosted by the government of Singapore. Mm. And there would have been a press release on that one as well.
Yeah, they're actually coming out to our media a lot from overseas and not locally.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice if we knew, what was happening before he went, or what was going to happen.
I think it does go out to the Cook Islands News, to all the media. It depends on our media if they want to put it in or not.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, Minister, putting yourself aside, nothing else comes this way.
Oh, to Matariki?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Maybe they're scared of me.
Could be.
And I'm not blaming my trumpet. Minister, so...
It might be the alternative facts that's sometimes presented.
Okay. Well, all right, so tell us about this deal, this new deal with Singapore Airline, or some airline, or the air rights.
It's a bilateral agreement that we have with Singapore, and this is, joins in with the air service agreements that we already have with countries like New Zealand, Australia, Fiji, and Samoa, a couple of others, I think. Singapore is a bit further away than most of these countries, but I guess we're looking at ensuring that we cement this agreement in place in case that there is opportunity that Singapore may look to, come this way in providing air services out towards the Eastern Pacific. Mm-hmm. I was just reading in the release that Fiji signed an air service agreement with Singapore 10 years ago, and it's now, this year, starting to negotiate additional service flights, Singapore direct to Nandi.
Right.
So it's a process of getting your building blocks in place, and when the opportunity arises in the future, you've already undertaken to put the foundation down or the framework in place to enable air services to commence. Mm. So that's essentially what this is about. It's also about strengthening our ties with Singapore. We've got a number of our staff that are attending training courses in Singapore, airport staff in particular, undertake a number of courses in Singapore, but also the Singapore government provides huge amount of support for public service development, public servants right around the Asia-Pacific region. And of course, our own public servants often take advantage of these training courses for upskilling, capacity building, and so forth. Last year, we had our two heads of ministries from finance and also from internal affairs attending courses in Singapore as part of the public service development program that they have. So Singapore is a very important partner for the Cook Islands, a very important bilateral partner. We share the same year of self-governing or independence. Theirs is August the 9th, ours is August the 4th. Mm-hmm. So this is just another step, I guess, in cementing that relationship that we have with Singapore.
Yeah, okay. And then in regards to the Prime Minister, I understand he's off to New Zealand. What's happening there?
There is, again, this one is what they call a Taniwha Dragon conference being hosted by New Zealand Maori iwi and the government of China in developing, again, ties, business opportunities or relationships with the government of China and Pacific Island countries. And in that one, again, a number of Pacific Island leaders have been invited to attend. Prime Minister of Samoa, our Prime Minister, a number of others. And this will be held in Hastings in New Zealand later in this month.
Okay. The Taniwha.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Taniwha and Dragon Conference. So I guess it's looking at merging the Maori and the Chinese mythical creatures as a symbol of their close working relationship.
Yeah.
And, you know, it really is, I guess, a bit of forward thinking by both the Maori iwis. As you know now, the Maori economy in New Zealand is a very, very strong piece of the economy. This was acknowledged by not only Prime Minister Key formally, but also by Finance Minister English previously.
Yeah.
And we know that, you know, a number of the Maori iwi with the Waitangi Treaty settlements are now valued in billions of dollars in their ownership and their exploitation of things like forestry, geothermal power, hydropower, their fisheries in particular. They're earning billions of dollars out of their fisheries, while the Cook Islands, Te Rongo Mana and the Cook Islands, wants us to deny our people that opportunity.
Oh, no, give it to them. Give it to the people.
It is the people. The people have
Giving it
elected
to
the government to do it for
a
them.
bunch of foreigners.
Not Te Rongo Mana, not the aristocracy of the Cook Islands.
Let's not talk about that, Minister.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what this conference is about. China is the emerging economy, with America now pulling a very much isolationist view, America first view. Putting up borders, putting up tariff barriers, withdrawing from trade agreements. That leaves a space in the global economy and trade wide open for countries like China to come in and offer an opportunity for smaller countries to be able to trade with their economy.
Yeah.
So I think what America is doing is going to really bite them in the backside big time over the next few years as they start to realize that the isolationist policies that they want to put in place is going to harm their economy, and it's going to make things more expensive for Americans.
Okay. I'm not sure, Minister, whether you saw it. I think it might have been on Sunday night on One Network News. The Bill English chat with Trump.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Some reference to a US-New Zealand alliance, and I think the key word there is alliance. Do you think that's a mistake, or...
No, I don't think he mentioned anything like that.
That's what was reported.
Well, there is already in existence the ANZUS alliance between Australia, New Zealand, and the US.
Yeah.
That's a military alliance.
Yeah. It's a bit of a Clayton's one since 1985, and there has been some cooling of relationships from that time until, I think, very recently when New Zealand Prime Ministers started to get a viewing with the presidents of the USA. But I think in terms of...
well, there was a cooling during David Long's warships coming into New Zealand.
Yeah.
And it took many decades after that before the relationship warmed up to the extent it is now. But there's no denying that there is good, strong engagement between New Zealand, the US, and Australia in terms of cooperation, in terms of sharing of intelligence, and in terms of shared the monitoring that takes place over the Pacific region, Pacific Ocean, and the 4-country agreement that's in place to help monitor our fisheries in particular is a very, very good example of that existing relationship that we have now.
Yeah. Okay. Minister, come back to Cabinet. What else was talked about?
What else was talked about? Oh, let me just check. What did we have there? It wasn't that. There was the usual applications for the social responsibility by members of Parliament for payment of certain things in their constituencies.
Yeah. Those that constituency social responsibility fund, Minister?
Well, each member gets $8,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that information accessible by the general public in terms of the drawdowns by those members of Parliament and what they're spending the money on?
I think once they go through the audit process, they're a public document. All of these constituency fund payments annually are audited, so it's itemised where the money actually went to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't seem to know where the one for our electorate's going at the moment.
Well, okay, as I said, that's once the accounts are audited and they're up to date. I think up until 2015. You can get copies of those if you wanted to.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, the other thing we discussed yesterday was support to the Ministry of Finance for the recruitment of a new economic advisor to replace James Webb, and also to replace Tristan Metcalf, who has gone back to Australia. So basically, those are the two key discussion points that we had in submissions.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're looking forward to having somebody on board at MFM to keep the ball rolling as far as the economic work that James was doing over the last couple of years, to keep that rolling. Yep.
Can you tell me, Minister, whether Richard Neves is still being used in a sort of stealth mode?
No, Richard works for the PIFTAC organisation, which is funded through the IMF, based in Fiji.
Yeah. Okay.
Certainly would still, I guess, touch base with him every now and again when we utilise the PIFTAC funding, which is technical assistance funding for financial areas.
Mm-hmm.
We may touch base with him, but it's up to the organisation who they send to the Cook Islands when we do request specialist financial technical assistance.
Right. Okay, Minister, let's move on.
Did you want me to say hello to Richard for you?
Oh, no, I was just asking a honest question. Minister, well, I asked you that because I've told them, don't bother coming back here.
That's rude.
I know. Minister, is government ready to call Parliament?
No, we're waiting for the courts.
Why do you need to wait for the court?
Well, we need to see what's the status of the seats of the leader of the opposition.
Does it really matter?
I think it does.
And
I think it does. We're in no rush. Well, we're quite happy to wait for the opposition's legal ruling to come out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, this is all driven by the opposition, so we're in their hands, I guess, along with the courts.
Well, I mean, even if it did rule that Awachu and Te Inui Mapumai go to a by-election, what happens in that case?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll wait and see what happens first with the outcome from the courts.
And that's why I'm asking, does it really matter whether there is a by-election in Te Inui Mapumai?
Well, there may not be.
Well, whether there is one or not.
Parliament.
Yeah, whether there is one or not. So it does all hinge on the judgment, does it?
I think so. I think we should wait for the judgment of the court. I mean, I was expecting it to come out before Christmas.
Yeah.
But it's taken a bit longer. But, this is all the outcomes of the political stunt-making by the opposition. I guess it'll come back to bite them in the bum because they might end up having a by-election.
I'm surprised that the government is taking a let's-wait-and-see sort of approach.
Well, we've always been mindful that anything the judiciary does is in its domain. It's in its courts, and we shouldn't get involved. Unlike the opposition, who would like us to go in and influence the judiciary, I think that's totally wrong.
Well,
totally wrong.
I don't think that there's been any allegations of that, Minister.
Oh, yes, we've been asked to influence the judiciary in a number of ways. Go and hurry things along with them, tell them what they should be doing. I think that's a totally wrong way to approach it, and I think it's almost smacks of what Donald Trump is doing in America, disparaging the judiciary over there if the law goes against them, abusing judges.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. This is sort of behaviour we're seeing from the opposition as well.
Oh, well. They're playing a wait-and-see sort of game at the moment. Okay, Minister, just one final point for this morning.
Yes.
Last week you mentioned that the Minister, I think it is, for Immigration is doing some new PRs. What's the guts on the review of our immigration law and policy?
I believe it's completed.
Yeah.
And I believe that there will be a presentation to Cabinet very shortly.
Uh-huh.
And we're just waiting for Foreign Affairs to carry that out.
Yeah. And when do you think that might happen, Minister?
I think the best thing to do is talk to the relevant agency. They would be more up to speed than I would be on their timetable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on when that is, but I expect it to be very shortly.
Uh-huh. What are you expecting from the review?
Well, I think there will be some recommendations on particularly the employment side of immigration.
Yeah.
People coming over here to work. There'll be some modernizing, I guess, of that particular area. That's the one key area that I know of that we really needed to address. Other than that, I'm not too sure what else to expect coming from it. I know there's been plenty of consultations with the private sector, with people like the Chamber of Commerce, also with the with traditional leaders and so forth.
Yeah.
So there's been some I guess, diverse views that have come through. There are some people who say stop all foreigners coming in, and there are some that say we need more workers to come in.
Yeah.
So we've got to be able to balance how our country is moving forward with the views that we're hearing from the public. We can take the extreme view of, again, what America is doing and banning people from coming in, building a wall in Mexico to stop illegal immigrants. I don't think we have the issues that America has that would force us to take extreme measures like that.
Yeah.
But there's certainly there needs to be some modernization or issues brought up to date because the current immigration law is so old, so outdated. It definitely needs modernizing.
So are you expecting some recommendations to make some wholesale changes to the Immigration Act?
Oh, I'm expecting a whole new act to be produced.
Okay.
Yep, the current one will probably be repealed and the new one tabled.
Yeah, there are some PRs that are abusing that PR status that they have. And I was just wondering how those sort of things can be resolved, especially those PRs that are living outside of the country for 2 years and then come back for a couple of months and then leave for another 2 years. Yeah, those ones. Clear abuse of that privilege. I'm just wondering whether there's been any thinking at government level on those particular PRs.
Yes, definitely. There has been some thought. I know that.
Sorry,
the recommendations are that come through.
Sorry, you cut up then, Minister, having another blue sky moment.
Oh, gosh. No, I was saying that there has been some discussion on the PR issues, and I expect them to feature prominently in the recommendations that will come from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Immigration.
Okay. And then finally, Minister, I understand Amalgamated Telecom Holdings are on the island. Are you meeting with him?
Yes, I shall be meeting with them this week.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And what are they here for?
Well, I guess it's to look at finalising the purchase of the AMPA shares of the Blue Sky Company. And of course, as a shareholder in the company ourselves, the Cook Islands people, we need to sit down with them and finalise this particular last step that needs to be taken.
Okay. All right, Minister. Well, thank you very much for your straight talking this morning. You have a great day. We'll catch up next week.
All right. Thank you. Ka kite.
Ka kite.